Hi everyone and welcome along. Today we're going to paint a lovely Christmas fireplace. So grab your paints and let's get started. Right then, to start off we're going to draw a few lines. So I've done just a base horizontal line, and from there I'm just marking out a little sort of hatch for our fireplace. So I've done a little rectangle. And that's the key thing, because our fire will be in there. And then really it's up to you in terms of your design of what your fireplace is going to look like. Are you going to do, maybe you're lucky enough to have a fireplace. We don't, and I really wish we did. So I'm just making like a bigger rectangle over the top, and then a mantelpiece, so another horizontal line over the top. As always, I draw the minimal amount of stuff. I like to be painting mostly. So yeah, that's all we need really, and then we can put these away and get painting. If you've drawn your things out quite heavily, the best thing to do is just lightly rub your pencil out to get to the faintest possible line. Just means that it won't be too visible once you finish your painting, and also will be much more easily rubbed out. I'm going to create a fairly rustic sort of brick effect on my fireplace. So I've got a size 2 brush, and what I've done is I've just sort of mixed up a range of brown tones. I've got oranges, yellow ochres, a bit of cadmium red in there as well. And what I'm doing, so a bit of fluff on my brush there, is I am using the wetness of the colours to place in some very sort of rough and fairly sort of wonky bricks. I think that's what I really want to achieve here. But the most important thing is I'm doing it really dilute, and you'll notice that I'm using the brush, I've got it angled fairly low on the page, which allows me to create a brick shape, or a sort of, fairly wobbly, rough brick shape, just sort of using the shape of the brush itself. What's really important is that I'm painting really dilute colours, because we're going to be building up all sorts of Christmassy detail over the top of this fireplace. But this is just a nice way of doing some very simple brickwork if you've not done it before. Now you must make sure that those bricks have dried 100% before doing the next bit, because now we're going to create the glowing fire in the fireplace. So I've got a nice large brush here, I've got a size 6, and I'm just wetting the central rectangle. So we don't want it to be sopping wet, but we need the area to be damp so that we can do a lovely fire blend. Just in advance I woke up the Cadmium Yellow and Cadmium Orange in my palette, and I've also got some Paynes Grey over on the left there. And yeah, I think we're good to go. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to begin with my Cadmium Yellow and just create an area of central glow. And I'm actually going to just help this along a little bit, because what we're doing, we're just sort of creating the ambience of it all. And then once it's all dried, we'll actually go back in and put in some proper detail of the flames. But now some Cadmium Orange just sort of in there as well. Those are looking a little bit more actual flame-like. And then I'm going to just go down a few sizes to my size 2 brush, and I'm going to take some Paynes Grey, and I'm going to paint the edges, and I'm going to try not to actually disturb the yellow glow too much, but what is inevitable and what we want to happen is for the two colours to sort of meet in the middle. So this is one of those watercolour techniques that comes with practice, learning about how much water you need on the page for it to be wet enough, and how much to sort of prod things with your brush. Now the other thing we could do whilst we're here is just sort of make that the edge of that fireplace a little bit more rustic, which is quite nice. Okay, so we'll get that done, and then once it's dry we can start doing some detail. While that was drying, I just took some time to draw in some pencil designs, and what I'm doing now, I've got some candles up here, and I'm just doing a sort of similar technique to the fireplace, just wetting the area. And in fact, for those of you who caught my advent candle tutorial last week, you'll have seen this technique where we just use a bit of wetness to get a beautiful warm glow around the edge of the candles. So we'll just allow that to dry whilst we paint in some of the other things. So what have we got here? I've got a little plate for Father Christmas, and of course a carrot for the reindeer. We've also got some stockings hung up, and we've got a sort of garland. So I'm going to begin with the garland. Now, of course, we could have just left, like drawn it all in and not painted in the brickwork and given ourselves a completely blank page to paint on. But I do like to just sort of demonstrate to you how watercolour can be sort of challenged, I suppose. And so I want to sort of look at layering up and how we can actually paint on top of things in watercolour, provided that we've painted the first layer in nice and dilute. So this is just a really good exercise in making sure your colours are really nice and pale, and the joy of being able to layer things up and create really beautiful depth and interest with your watercolour painting. Okay, so I've got a size 2/10 brush here, and what I'm going to do is I am going to paint in some lovely sort of festive garland. I'm going to do it sort of slightly stylized, so it's not just all going to be holly and mistletoe. I'm going to do just sort of some general leaf shapes because I want to keep it nice and simple. So I'm just using the 2/10 brush to create nice little leaf shapes, and then of course we can also do some nice pine needles and some fir. But you can see, using the concentrated colour, it's got no problem showing up on top of the brickwork. And now I'm going to take some Cadmium Red and just dot in berries wherever I can find a spot. And I'm also going to paint in the other red elements. Oh, I always manage to get my hand all over the place when I'm doing these things. I'll twist it round. There we go. That's a bit safer. Now with all the red coloured in, and that's all gone really nice and easily on over the top of any colours underneath, I've now got some alizarin crimson, because what I like with red is a bit more red. So alizarin crimson is a lovely deep pink colour, so I'm just adding some extra detail to my candles. And it also just helps with the general composition when you limit your colour palette down. And I really like this combination of colours. It's kind of classic Christmas, but it's not. Just adding in the pink makes it just a little bit more interesting. Makes me think I want to try and find some stripy candles like these. For our imaginary mantelpiece. Okay, so now I'm going to add some colour on the stockings. I don't think I'll pattern the stockings, but I will put lettering on them, so for the sake of neutrality we will just label them A, B and C, because I just realised I was going to do Aunt Harriet and Crumble, but of course we have another dog this year. We have Lola. Poor little Lola needs a stocking too, so we'll make sure she does get one when the real thing happens. And then yeah, just a little bit of Alisar and Crimson ribbon. And the last few things we're going to do are the details on the fire, a bit of sort of atmospheric detail on the ground. We need to do the plate and the carrot, but then all of a sudden it will all suddenly be done. This might be a bit of a time-consuming one to turn into a Christmas card, but maybe a Christmas card for a very special person who'd really appreciate all the time you took with it. Or a little piece of Christmas art just for you, maybe to give as a gift to someone. Okay, we'll let that dry and then we'll get on with the last bits. Next we're going to just get the area around the front of the fireplace sorted. So what I'm going to do is I'm just wetting the area just carefully around the present that we've already painted and the items that we're yet to paint. Quite like to have that plate white, but I'm not too fussed about the rest of it. Okay, and what I want to do is just get a little bit of a warm glow coming out of the fire. Don't worry, the house isn't on fire, but we just want to get that going, and then just a diluted bit of the Paynes Grey. To give that sense of the sort of the dark coziness of the rest of the room. So that's what I love about a fire, is that sense of the glow. and how it sort of suddenly stops and the rest of the room is in darkness. Just also helps frame the pictures, doesn't it? So whilst that's drying, we can start looking at a few little bits of detail up top. First thing is, now we know sort of how much of the mantelpiece we're seeing, I can just get a little bit of Paynes Grey and paint in just a little bit of shadow. We'll be adding a bit more shadow towards the end, but that's more of a detail really, just to establish the mantelpiece. Then at the top we've got our little candles, so we'll do this little yellow and orange flame, that little bit of unpainted space in the middle making all the difference. And now for our actual log fire. Well, we need some logs, don't we? So let's get some burnt sienna. What I quite like is that glow of the fire sort of coming into the unpainted space there. A little bit charred though as well. We'll have another log. And one more. So that's just creating those with just some sort of lines of colour. And a little bit on the end as well. And some slightly more defined flames. So cadmium yellow is nice and thick and opaque, and I want those flames really sort of licking out from the logs themselves, so I think that's rather nice. I think don't overdo it, you can sort of get a bit bogged down and it can lose its charm a bit. Now down here we've got a carrot. Now I feel like this area is dried enough so we can put our carrot in. So I just I paint in a little bit, clean off my brush, and then go back in and just use the variation, and you've got the glow from the fire there, just capturing it at the top. Little cookie, although some might say, why on earth is the cookie already eaten, had a bite out of it, when the stockings haven't been filled yet? Well, it's a good question, and I'm not entirely sure. Maybe someone got peckish when they put it out. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what my thinking is there. I'm clearly hungry, that's what it must be saying. And a mug. Let's have a little green festive mug. So the last few things, when you have a very clear light source in a piece, you're going to have light and shade on all the things around it. So the first thing is just a bit of extra shadow. So I've got Paynes Grey and burnt sienna mixed up here, and I'm just adding in a little bit of extra shadow. I mean, you must wait until your paintings are dry before you attempt to do this. And then we've got just a little bit on the stockings there. A little bit on the garland. And then, because I think this will look really cool, we're going to do a little fire grate. I think it would be sensible to take our pencil and ruler one last time and just draw ourselves a straight line. And even if you wanted, you could draw some verticals as well. But I'm going to take my 2/10 brush, bit of Mars black, quite concentrated, and I am going to draw or paint. I'd like to paint 2 parallel lines to get the metal effect, just to get some little tiny bits of unpainted shine. There we go. And then some vertical bars, and we'll have a little curl. The other thing with the 2 parallel lines is it just gives you a bit more space to get your line straight. If you haven't managed it the first time. Okay, so now I'm just going to place in vertical lines all the way along, and then we'll be done. And just because I can't resist a little bit of Paynes Grey and that bit of shadow, and there you have a lovely glowing fireplace scene, perfect for Christmas. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed that one, and don't forget we've got a whole Christmas playlist on the channel with loads of extra content to get you inspired for the season. I want to say a massive thank you to my patrons for their support, because that support enables us to keep creating videos like these that everyone can enjoy. And if you enjoyed this one, then hit the like button and comment below to let me know how you got on with it. And of course, if you never want to miss another video, then hit the subscribe button, and we'll see you again next time. Bye!